to observe health protocols like wearing of face masks and maintaining physical distancing. Well, let's check how day one of the local campaign went in parts of Metro Manila, beginning with the nation's capital, which has over 1 million voters. Our senior correspondent David Santos tells us familiar surnames are dominating the mayoral race.
Incumbent Vice Mayor Hani Lacuna kicks off her campaign to take over the Manila City Hall while coming under heavy political attack from her rivals. Lacuna has been the target of negative campaigning, from allegations of funds misuse to questionable government deals. She says she will let the accomplishments of her administration with Mayor Isko Moreno speak for itself.
Hindi ba ho sila napapagod? Dapat ho sana magtuon na lang sila kung ano ang pwede nilang gawin para sa mga batang Maynila. Hindi po yung pabalik-balik na lang, paulit-ulit na lang po, same issues, paulit-ulit na rin po namin sinasagot yun.
Like Lacuna, most of the candidates for Manila's next chief executive are political scions. Her closest rival, Mrna Vaccines, is the son of five-time Manila Mayor Ramon Bagatsing, Alex Lopez, the son of two-termer Mayor Mel Lopez, and Christy Lim, the daughter of Mayor Fred Lim, who also served for 2 terms. There are 2 other mayoral candidates, Onofre Abad and former police officer Elmer Hamias. Both Lacuna and Lim are hoping to be elected as Manila's first ever female mayor since this position became an elective post in the 1950s.
Kailangan na ng taong bayan, ng mamamayan ng lungsod ng Maynila, ang haplos ng isang ina, ang pagkalinga at tamang pag-aaruga sa kanila.
Well, better basic social services like health, education, and housing, as well as poverty alleviation in the context of the pandemic recovery, remain among the biggest concerns of voters we spoke to here in Manila. Some could not hide their frustration. 71-year-old food vendor Leticia Yap says she has lived through many Manila mayors, but nothing seems to have changed.
Yung mga sinabi nila, tuparin lang nila.
And since we're still in pandemic, candidates say they'll resort to hybrid campaign strategies, meaning a mix of in-person and online caucuses. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Heading now to the largest city in the capital region, the battle for vote-rich Quezon City heats up, with the top 2 contenders taking swipes at each other. Our Tristan Odalo reports.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte admits that she's in for a challenging campaign because she's seeking the voters' nod and at the same time fighting misinformation and disinformation against her. In her proclamation rally at the Quezon City Memorial Circle, Belmonte highlights the city's COVID-19 response and assistance to livelihood during the pandemic. Belmonte was joined by her running mate, Vice Mayor Gian Soto. Actors Arjo Ataide, who's vying for a QC representative post, and Congressman Alfred Vargas, who is running for councilor, also joined Belmonte's rally. Without naming names, the city mayor did not mince words over her political opponent.
Huwag kayong mag-alala. Hindi tayo mamumudmod ng gamot na hindi pa aprobado at para sa alaga nating hayop. Yung iba dyan, mas inuna ang pagpapasara sa ABS-CBN. Yan may resibo. Yan ang ipaliwanag mo sa mga tao na habang nasa gitna tayo ng krisis, libo-libong pamilya ang nagtiis at natiis mong mawalan ng trabaho.
Mayoral candidate Mike Defensor meantime says it will be better for him and Belmonte to settle their issues through a debate. Defensor also adds that he is standing by for the things he had done, including the ivermectin distribution and his vote against the TV network's franchise.
Pasalamat siya kumilos pa kami at marami pa rin kumilos na mga doktor, mga negosyante na nagtulong-tulong sa Quezon City. Ang trabahong yun, ginawa ko out of duty, yung sense of duty as congressman na merong application for a franchise. Dapat hindi balat sibuya si Mayor Joy dyan, and in fact dapat sagutin yung mga issue, legitimate issues, hindi fake news.
Defensor is being supported by the Unity team while Belmonte is being backed by PDP Laban. There are 9 mayoral candidates in the city's top posts. Meantime, Quezon City is the largest city in Metro Manila with over 1.4 million voters and assets worth over 400 billion pesos. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
In Pasig City, it is a one-on-one race between the incumbent mayor Vico Soto and his vice mayor Io Bernardo. The two kicked off their campaigns amid a cyber libel complaint. Amor Santos tells us more.
Re-electionist Mayor Vico Soto was warmly welcomed by supporters as he kicked off his campaign here at the Pasig Mega Market this morning. On the other hand, his rival Vice Mayor Io Bernardo began his day with a house-to-house tour. Soto arrived with his mother, veteran actress Connie Reyes. His father, comedian Vic Soto, charmed the crowd as he introduced the young mayor. It was a star-studded event. In Soto's Giting ng Pasig slate, two candidates for councilor are showbiz personalities, actress Angelo De Leon and former TV host Kiko Rustia. Soto's running mate is former Pasig Representative Dodot Jaworski, who was introduced by his wife, Mikey Coangco. Re-electionist Congressman Roman Romulo was also with his wife, Shalani Soledad. Soto said much has changed in the city since he launched his anti-corruption crusade, but added it's just the beginning.
Ang binasag natin na sindikato, binasag natin na korupsyon ay nasa 1 billion pesos per year. Hindi po siguro nakakagulat kung ba't maraming nagagalit sa akin ngayon.
Meanwhile, after visiting residents in Barangay Kapasigan, Bernardo admitted in an interview that it's an uphill battle challenging the incumbent mayor who's not only from a well-known family, but is also popular on social media. He says his strategy is to reach out to Pasigueños himself.
With regards po doon po sa dati pong administration, ma'am, sabihin na po natin, ma'am, na meron pong positive, meron sabihin na rin po ng iba na meron pong negative. Ino-offer ko lang ang aking sarili dahil sa pananaw ko, ma'am, kailangan talagang maramdaman ng mga Pasigueño yung pong 13.6 to 13.7 billion budget ng lungsod ng Pasig.
Bernardo says the cyber libel complaint he filed against Soto will be heard in April. The officials engaged in a word war after Bernardo called out the allegedly slow distribution of social aid in the city. Soto asked him to prioritize work over politics. In 2019, Soto ended the almost 3-decade rule of the Eusebios in Pasig. Bernardo, meanwhile, was unopposed as running mate of then-Mayor Bobby Eusebio. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
It was a colorful start to the campaign season in Cebu. Re-electionist Governor Gwen Garcia held a mass and a motorcade in the southern towns of Cebu's 7th district. Some senatorial bets are expected to join her tonight. Garcia's rival, former Tourism Secretary Ace Durano, held a caravan in portions of Cebu's 5th district. He capped things off with a proclamation rally in Danao City. Candidates for Cebu City Mayor also rallying their supporters through early morning masses and parades. They include incumbent Mayor Michael Rama, who is endorsing Bongbong Marcos, former Cebu City Councilor Margot Osmeña, who is supporting Leni Robredo, and newcomer City Councilor Dave Tumulak, who has yet to back a presidential candidate. Over in Bicol, the Makabayan Coalition held a caravan in a bid to win votes for the candidates and party lists the alliance is supporting. These include Robredo and her running mate Kiko Pangilinan. The coalition, which consists of Bayan Muna, Anak Pawis, Kabataan, Gabriela, and ACT Teachers party list, will bring their caravan to Quezon Province after their Bicol tour. The Commission on Elections, meanwhile, vows to press charges against violators of safety protocols as local bets marked day one of their campaign today. Commissioner George Garcia says campaign crowds appear manageable so far, but he appeals to candidates and political parties to comply with minimum health standards. Rules prohibit hugs, kisses, handshakes, and taking selfies with supporters in face-to-face events. A day after the surprise turn of events involving Senator Ping Lacson's presidential bid, he claims Partido Reforma President Pantaleon Alvarez withdrew his support over campaign funds. Alvarez yesterday dropped Lacson as his presidential bet and instead endorsed Vice President Leni Robredo's candidacy. The former House Speaker said Lacson has slim chances of winning based on recent surveys, while Robredo is gaining traction against Bongbong Marcos. In a statement, Lacson said, quote, "Time to call a spade a spade." He says it was more about the 800 million pesos Alvarez's chief of staff was asking from him for local candidates. an amount he said he could not produce. Alvarez, however, says it was his duty to inform Lacson about the costs needed for the campaign as party president. Robredo spokesperson Barry Gutierrez also says the campaign thrives on initiative and volunteerism. He insists they do not have 800 million pesos to give away to anyone, while Partido Reforma Chairman Emeritus and founder Renato de Villa respects Alvarez's decision to jump ship and support Robredo. He says he too was surprised by the move, but he vows to continue to support Lacson. We continue to monitor the 2022 race as Election Day approaches. The COMEC taps more agencies to crack down on vote buying. And while poll officials gear up for an election amid the pandemic, the country also prepares to reopen to vaccinate foreigners next month. This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. Passengers, as the month-long free rides go full steam ahead, MRT3 says around 400,000 commuters are expected to take the trains beginning Monday. Passengers may get single journey tickets, while beep cards may be used upon entry and exit, also for free. The offer runs from March 28th to April 30th. The days are getting warmer, and electricity consumption is expected to go up as people find more ways to cool down. As Rex Lumita reports, officials want government agencies to conserve energy.
It's business as usual at the Land Transportation Office in Quezon City. But when you go inside their office, some lights are off. So are some air conditioning units. In one section, only electric fans and a cooler are running.
Sa aming air conditioning unit, for as long as kaya pa yung tolerable pa yung init, hindi naman kailangan naming buksan lahat.
These are just some of their ways to conserve energy, as strictly ordered by the Energy Department. The Government Energy Management Program aims to cut the electricity and oil consumption of government agencies by 10% to help the country prepare for possible oil supply issues due to the war between Russia and Ukraine, and ensure stable power supply this summer season, especially on Election Day.
We're looking on the other side to conserve energy so that we don't have to produce as much power anymore.
Other energy conservation practices government offices must do include turning off lights and computers during lunch breaks and after office hours, adjusting the aircon unit's thermostat to not lower than 24 degrees Celsius, and keeping doors of air-conditioned spaces closed. The DOE projects the state can save up to 24 megawatts, which is equivalent to what an 840 million peso diesel power plant can produce. To ensure implementation of these measures, agencies must regularly submit reports to the DOE. Energy audit teams will also do random spot checks in offices. Based on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, those who violate the law could face fines or jail time. But an LTO official admits they cannot turn off some of their equipment, like computers, to ensure their services to the public won't be disrupted.
Hindi po kami gumagamit ng matataas ang wattage na nagkukonsumo ng mataas na kuryente.
The DOE meanwhile is hoping the day will come when energy conservation will just be everyone's way of life. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
The country is opening its doors to fully vaccinated foreigners in a week's time. Malacanang says foreign travelers can enter even without an exemption document, but they still need to present the following, now flashed on your screens. These include an acceptable proof of vaccination, except for minors below 12 years old who are traveling with their fully vaccinated parents. They must also present a negative RT-PCR test taken within 48 hours, or a laboratory-based antigen test taken within 24 hours prior to their departure. Tourism Department says this will help revive tourism businesses which suffered heavy losses after 2 years of pandemic restrictions. The Health Department says all regions in the country are now under minimal risk for COVID-19. COMELEC intensifies its crackdown against vote buying 45 days before the May 9 polls. Commissioner George Garcia says the poll body will convene Task Force Contra Bigay next week with the Justice and Interior Department's Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, the NBI, and the police and military. The task force will look into vote buying complaints and by its own initiative. Now, as the campaign season further heats up, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno scoffs at suggestions that he, as well as Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao, should withdraw from the presidential race. The suggestions supposedly made by supporters of Vice President Leni Robredo in a bid to boost her candidacy.
Sila lang ba may monopolya ng kaalaman sa paglilingkod sa bayan? Good luck.
Robredo says her campaign is gaining ground as more volunteers get involved, and she denied allegations she pays people to attend her sorties.
Yung mga rallies namin, ibang-iba siya compared to all the other elections. Kasi ngayon, lahat siya volunteer-driven. Yung mga rallies namin on the ground, lahat volunteers yung nag-aasikaso. So maraming mga lugar na walang local officials na kabahagi ng preparations. Pero each and every time na bumababa kami, grabe talaga yung, hindi lang yung number ng tao, pero yung energy ng kampanya. And ito yung nakakabigay ng kasiyahan, and nakakawala talaga siya ng pagod.
Faisal Mangundato is unfazed by his low survey ranking. He got a score of 0.4 in the latest Pulse Asia voter preference survey. Mangundato points out President Duterte was also a survey laggard during the early months of the 2016 campaign.
Makakahabol pa tayo. Maraming mga kababayan kong mga kapatid na mga Muslim na marami sila hindi lang sa farm kundi pati sa lahat ng probinsya ng Pilipinas, ay marami kaming conversation pagtawag sa akin na sila ay sumusuporta sa kapatid nilang Muslim.
Presidential candidates gather again on one stage for tonight's election forum organized by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines and Jesuit Communications. Moderated by Rico Hizon and Bernadette Sembrano, Usapang Halalan aims to dig deep into the candidates' positions and convictions on issues where politics and religion intersect. The forum begins at 6 this evening and is being live streamed on our official YouTube channel. It'll be broadcast later at 10 p.m. here on CNN Philippines. For members of the LGBTQ plus community, the country still has a long way to go in protecting their rights. While some observers may call us, quote, a gay-friendly country, the community says the reality on the ground is different. Tristan Adalo takes us through some challenges hounding the LGBTQ plus sector and who could get the, quote, rainbow vote.
Surrounded by the rainbow flag, this small church in Quezon City has become a place of refuge for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or LGBT couples. You heard it right, it's a church conducting holy unions for same-sex partners.
Kung hindi man nila malegalize yung same-sex marriage, ay yung civil union, love has no gender, no? At meron kaming karapatan na magmahal kung kanino.
Under Philippine law, hindi pa po nire-recognize yung same-sex marriage. But ang ginagawa nyo po ay holy union. How does it actually work? Ano pong effect nito sa LGBT couple?
Napakahalaga para sa kanila na yung basbas ng Panginoon ay nagaganap. Although hindi pa legalized. Pero sinasabi, sila nagpapatunay na pag pumunta sila sa Canada, saan man, sa Spain or sa UK, ay nagagamit yung Holy Union Certificate bilang proof of togetherness.
This church is also a shelter for LGBTQ plus members rejected by their families after coming out. The challenges they face worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yung mga concerns ng mga members ay hindi sila nakaka-avail sa ayuda unless na meron silang sariling bahay. Kasi ang batayan ng ayuda is household. So marami talagang deprived sa ayuda.
LGBT group Bahaghari shares its wish list for the next administration, which focuses on the immediate passage of the Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Expression or SOGI Equality Bill. They're also pushing for an amendment to the definition of marriage in the Family Code, accessible means to change transgender people's legal names, fully subsidized healthcare, and empowerment. But where do some of the presidential candidates stand, at least on same-sex civil union?
Magsasama sa lalaki, hindi tutol po ako dyan. Pagdating sa same-sex marriage, against po ako dyan. Hindi po ako pabor dyan.
Naniniwala po ako na lahat dapat binibigyan ng pagkakataon na ma-enjoy yung mga karapatan na na-enjoy ng iba. I am all for civil unions.
Malinaw sa akin yon. Civil union, yes. Same-sex marriage, no.
As for the SOGI Equality Bill, it has yet to see the silver lining after numerous versions failed to pass Congress. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Up next on Newsnight, details on the newly released second season of Bridgerton from the cast themselves. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay. SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. In entertainment, apart from romance, a diverse cast, and scandals set in the British Regency era, gossip also plays a huge role in the plot of hit Netflix series Bridgerton. Our Tristan Nadalo speaks to some of the stars of the series and what fans can expect for season 2, which just came out today.
Dearest gentle reader.
The writings of mysterious columnist Lady Whistledown will soon become the talk of the town again as she makes a comeback in the second season of the hit series Bridgerton.
Lady Whistledown, she has become more confident. I think
For actress Nicola Coughlan, gossip has become part of every culture even during the British Regency era.
Penelope being young and fearless and sort of just writing what she wants and being totally in charge of it. No one's telling her what to do, but society hang on her every word.
Apart from costumes and charming facades of old-world houses, the series also reflects the role of women and their struggles in a male-dominated society at that time.
Those women, they didn't have the choices that we have today, and they can't go and sort of do what they want. So yeah, it's definitely.
The big decision that he's made is that he is going to go and find his Viscountess and find a wife. Every year, it's a whole different beast, and it's a different love story. And yes, you know, you'll recognize the same characters, but for that reason, really, it started with these two, and it was a completely different experience.
Entering the Bridgerton world are the Sharma sisters.
I didn't really experience any challenges. I think it was a really positive welcome. And I think the reason why they have this bond since season 1 is because they are all such warm, wonderful people that are just so enthusiastic and excited to bring this story to life.
It's daunting being like the new kids at school, but what I think we benefited from is we were coming in as a unit. So obviously there was Simone and I, but there was also Shelley Conn, who plays our mum. There was Rupert Young, who plays Mysterious Jack. And there was Callum Lynch, who plays Theo. So there was a gang of us who were new, and that makes it easy.
Fans of the series can also experience the glitz and glamour of the British Regency era here in the Philippines through Villa Bridgerton. A mansion in Quezon City was converted to let Filipinos feel the elegant world of the series. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
And that is it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13 sa Zinday Utso sa Dayan sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andam mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
The COVID-19 pandemic has turned our attention to the immune system. It's our body's defense against potentially harmful bacteria, viruses, and other organisms that we may encounter every day. But what exactly is our immune system and how does it help guard our bodies? Today, we'll talk about the body's natural barrier and the role vaccines play in protecting us against diseases. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Our goal here on the program is to help you better understand the care you need and deserve. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Some of the common things we know about maintaining good health is to eat healthy, exercise regularly, get enough sleep, and take your vitamins daily. But are these enough to maintain a strong and healthy immune system? Our guests will help us discover more about this today. Let's welcome Dr. Annalyn Reyes, who's a pediatric infectious disease specialist and assistant professor from the UST Faculty of Medicine and Surgery. Also joining us is Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. She's a pediatric and adult immunology specialist from the Asian Hospital and Medical Center as well as the Makati Medical Center. Due to the Omicron variant's transmissibility, it may seem like getting it is inevitable. And because of this, some people may want to take matters into their own hands by deliberately infecting themselves with COVID-19 just to get it over with. So, should you try to get infected? The short answer is, of course, no. Dr. Joni, please explain to us why.
Well, first of all, no, why are they thinking that they should be infected, no? I think there's that belief that if you get infected, it's just a mild infection and you will get your immunity from that. That is not true because even the latest variant, the Omicron, is not mild. People could die from that, no? May namamatay. Kaya lang, dahil nga sa mga developments, a lot more people got vaccinated. Actually, there's more evidence that because of the increasing vaccination, that actually makes the infection nowadays among those na nabakunahan milder. Okay, so the disease is not mild, but it's what we have done so far over the past 2 years that is helping us.
Now, to understand immunity in general and immunity to COVID-19, we must first understand how a virus works. Dr. Yen, could you please tell us more about this?
Immunity is our body's capacity to resist harmful organisms. There is this active immunity wherein our body itself produces the antibodies against the virus or the organisms itself. So we can have this active immunity when we have the disease itself, wherein we will produce antibodies, or we can have this active immunity when we are injected through vaccine. Because when we are given the vaccine, they will give us the attenuated or the weakened form of the virus itself, like the measles virus, for example. It will be injected to us, and then our body will produce the antibodies or the soldiers of the body. So that is active immunity.
Let's talk about yung palagi pinag-uusapan ngayon, natural immunity, which is the antibody protection your body creates against, in this case, a virus once you've been infected. Now, natural immunity varies per person and depends as well on the infection. But Doc Joni, could you explain a little bit more on how natural immunity actually bolsters a person's natural immune system?
When you look at the immune system, it's very complex, it's very beautiful actually, no? And wonderful kasi it was designed well to protect humans. Now, the natural immunity, if we touch on that, actually there are different arms of the immune system. Meron tayong tinatawag na adaptive immune system, may innate immune system. So part of that protection that we get, let's focus on the virus, no? Actually, both arms are working, no? And there are other parts of it that are also working. They help each other. Now, yung nakikita nating immunity na sinasabi natin sa antibodies, this is part of the adaptive immunity. Yan. So, tama, ang tendency if mataas ang antibodies natin, may assumption tayo na mataas rin yung neutralizing antibodies. Yan yung specific na antibodies na nagka-capture at nagpumapatay sa ating virus, no?
Ang isang tao na nahawa with COVID-19, hindi siya bakunado, nahawa siya with COVID-19 at gumaling. She now has the antibodies for COVID-19. Kailangan pa ba niyang magpabakuna or should they be confident na hindi ko na kailangan ng vaccine or booster dahil gumaling na ako sa COVID-19?
Like for example, ang tao, mahawa siya ng COVID. So naturally, as mentioned, the natural response natin, nag-produce siya ng antibodies. So meron siyang anti-COVID antibodies. However, studies have shown na yung anti-COVID antibodies niya wouldn't last long. Usually, ang ibang studies, mga 2 to 3 months lang. Although this coronavirus kasi it is called a novel virus, it is a new virus, so ongoing lahat ng mga studies. Pero yung mga latest studies niya, yung antibody protection mo with natural infection is even less than the antibody protection with vaccination.
Although most people with COVID-19 get better within weeks, some may experience post-COVID symptoms. Post-COVID conditions are a wide range of new, returning, or ongoing health problems people can experience 4 or even more weeks after being infected. Even people who didn't have symptoms at first can have post-COVID symptoms. Dr. Yen, pag-usapan natin ng some symptoms na ito. What are some of the more common ones na nakikita ninyo?
Yes, so maraming mga cases reported in journal na may mga long COVID. So it sometimes occur in 10 to 20% of persons who have the disease itself. So yung most common nila is yung persistent cough. So tumatagal yung cough nila. Sometimes it can occur more than 2 to 3 months. Or ang iba, loss of smell, loss of taste. Ang iba talaga, tumatagal yung loss of smell. Even doctors, they even complain that they have loss of smell for even 3 months. So usually, long COVID occurs within 3 months from the onset of illness, and it sometimes lasts for 2 months, and it cannot be explained with other diagnoses. So other symptoms ng long COVID, meron silang forgetfulness, ang iba confusion, ang iba memory loss, ang iba loss of mental focus.
Dr. Joni, can anyone develop long COVID, even young, healthy people?
Well, long COVID, we're still studying that kasi yan yung mga symptoms that persist 3 months and more. So, nauna ang vaccinations, nauna, more exposed yung mga adults natin. So, we have seen a lot more COVID in the adults. So, there are more studies sa kanila, no? But yes, now we're seeing as as time went by, meron rin tayo nakikitang long COVID kahit na sa mga bata. So, hindi rin exempted, no? Kahit na younger.
Now, COVID-19 vaccines are a safe and effective tool in protecting us from the virus. But we should still continue to follow safety protocols. We'll learn more about vaccines and booster shots when we return. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk. The COVID-19 vaccine can prevent you from becoming seriously ill or dying due to the virus. But how do different types of vaccines work? I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk. We're together in health. The COVID-19 vaccine causes the immune system to create antibodies to fight off the virus. Dr. Joni, could you explain how our bodies fight illnesses?
The immune system really is the main thing. Pag halimbawa, some reason na nakapasok na inhale mo, katulad ng mga viruses na yan, coronavirus, na pumapasok sa loob ng ilong, sa mata, then you also have on the surface of the insides of mga orifices, yung mga may natural antibiotics tayo dyan, no? Part of our innate defense systems. Okay? And then, more than that, pagka deeper into the surface, kunyari sa ilong or sa lungs, meron rin tayo dyan yung mga cells natin. Andyan na magsisimula yung mga immune cells natin. So, dyan, ito na yung mga kung saan nadedetect yung mga viruses, ng tinatawag natin mga macrophages, tapos makikilala sila, tapos dadating yung pwede silang write off, pwede na silang makain ng macrophage, no? At ma-destroy. Or, yung macrophage pwedeng i-present sila dun sa ibang immune cells, no? Yung mga tinatawag nating T cells and B cells. Yun naman, pag napakita sila doon, madedetect sila ngayon ng mga cells na yon, uy, mga kalaban to. So, kailangan nating mag-produce ng pwedeng antibodies against them. So, yan ang tinatawag nating adaptive immune system. And then, nire-retain ngayon yan, may memory. So itong mga to, hindi lang papatayin nila at that time, but they also remember. So that if, let's say, nag-recover ka na, no, nabatay lahat yung virus, the next time na encounter mo siya uli, meron na nakahanda ng mga B cells ready to produce yung antibodies for that particular virus or bacteria. So that's how the immune system works. Iba-ibang layer siya.
Now, the COVID-19 vaccines help our bodies develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19 without getting sick. Now, different types of vaccines work in different ways to offer protection. But with all the types of vaccines, the goal is for the body to remember how to fight off the virus in the future. Now, currently, there are different forms of the vaccine available for us here in the Philippines. Dr. Yen, during the earlier parts of the pandemic, the slogan was always the best vaccine is the one that is in front of you. Does that still hold today?
Yes, it is still true. Because the best vaccine is still the one that is in your arm. There are 4 types of major COVID vaccines, and we also have that in the Philippines. So number 1, we have the mRNA vaccines, that is the genetically engineered vaccines, and it prompts our immune system to produce antibodies. So examples for that are the Pfizer and the Mrna vaccines. They are mRNA. Another vaccine that we have here is the viral vector vaccine. So this viral vector, they uses a virus or like the adenovirus, which is a carrier to bring the vaccine, to bring the antigen to the body. An example for this is the AstraZeneca. We have that here, the Sputnik and the Janssen and Johnson & Johnson. So we also have this inactivated vaccine, wherein the virus itself, the coronavirus, is inactivated or attenuated or slightly mutated. And then once they're inactivated, they are injected to our body, and our body will produce antibodies against that. So examples for that is the Sinovac or the Sinopharm. And then there are also protein vaccines wherein they just use protein subunits, and example for that is Novavax.
Booster shots are now given at least 3 months after the second dose of a primary 2-dose vaccine, or at least 2 months after the primary single-dose vaccine is given. Dr. Yen, when it comes to booster shots, importante na ba to? Kumbaga, kailangan ba ito? Because unfortunately, a lot of our kababayans forgo the booster shot, settling with just their primary series.
Yes, it's very true that a booster shot is really needed. And in fact, I also had myself a booster shot because I realized it's important. So studies have shown that the COVID vaccine, so since I mentioned that COVID is novel and it is new, there are still new studies for that. However, they already released that studies that with your COVID vaccination, it is called the primary, you have your 2 shots. Like for example, when you have your Pfizer vaccine or AstraZeneca, you have your 2 shots already. So there are already studies that after 4 to 6 months, the antibodies already wane. So bumababa na yung antibodies natin. So we need the booster shot to increase again the antibodies. So that's why in the Philippines, we already avail of the booster shots to increase the antibodies and to protect ourselves more.
Now, preventing COVID-19 is important, but preventing other diseases that affect people globally is just as vital. Vaccines help protect all of us from serious fatal illnesses. Dr. Jody, pag-usapan natin yun. Aside from this, what are some of the reasons why our viewers should get vaccinated for other diseases as well?
Specific yung vaccines, remember, no? Talagang targeted yan. So, hindi pwede maiwan. Marami tayong mga diseases na importante na pang-protect tayong lahat, no? The ones na usual sa mga bata, tuloy pa rin yan. Hindi dapat makalimutan. So one of the more common ones na pati sa adults, yung flu vaccine. Kasi nga, ang reason nga nagka-flu vaccine is for us to be protected from the deadly, serious, severe flu. That's why we do it. At nag-mutate yan, ano? So that's why every year, we use a different one. So that's why hindi siya one shot. You have to have it yearly. So hindi dapat maiwan yan. So lahat ng mga ibang illness hindi naman nawala nung nagkaroon ng coronavirus, di ba? So nandyan pa rin sila. At saka pag nag-open up na tayo, God willing, we'll be walking again among other people. Pwede na naman tayo mahawa. So hindi pwede wala tayong protection. So we still have to continue. And we do tell everyone to please have your regular vaccinations still.
Getting vaccinated doesn't mean you won't get infected, but it significantly lowers the risk for severe illness as well as death. When we return, we'll talk about how to discern health misinformation or the infodemic. Your health is our mission. This is MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. We are all exposed to a vast amount of COVID-19 information daily, but not all of it is true as well as reliable. How can we tell the difference? I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk, where your care always comes first. As humans, we are very curious. We want to understand the world around us and stay up to date to the challenges we face. One of the ways we do this is by seeking out and sharing new information. But not everything you see may be accurate. This is called the infodemic, a flood of information on the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Yen, can you give us some tips on how to identify misinformation?
So for us to prevent misinformation, you have to be very sure that we have to check all the sources. So we have to check all the reliable sources, like those who can vouch for its integrity, like the World Health Organization, the Philippine Pediatric Society, the PMA site. We can also check the Centers for Disease Control, and there is also the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we also have to check for reputable journals. So whenever we see journals also, we also have to recheck if it is peer-reviewed. Because sometimes journals are written, but it has to be peer-reviewed. Other peers should also check it, like other doctors should also check if it's valid or not. So someone should validate it. So all other scientists and other doctors should peer review a journal. And we have to be sure that what we are reading and what we are saying are true.
But Dr. Joni, for the person having something peer-reviewed, maybe not be so common for them to search for, to look out for. Sometimes mas importante, nangyari sa kakilala ko to, therefore naniniwala sila. Why is this a case? Why is it sometimes so easy for some people to believe certain things even when it may be dangerous for them?
There are many things, no? May mga historical reasons, no? Like, let's take COVID. Kasi COVID is the first time in our history, no, of man na ganito kabilis ang development ng vaccines. So, it's the first time we're seeing it. We're questioning it. Kasi nga, parang wow, it used to take mga 7 years or even up to 15 years before a vaccine is fully certified na yan, safe, bibigay na natin sa lahat. So medyo nagugulat ang mga tao, hindi sanay. So naki-question, di ba? So normal naman yon. Pero syempre ang totoo, di ba, matagal na yung teknolohiyang yan. That's like at least 20 years old. They've used that in the original SARS-CoV. They use that in MERS. Hindi lang nagamit kasi hindi naman na-spread yung mga sakit na yon, no? Hindi katulad ng SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, hindi siya masyado nakakamatay. Kaya tumagal siya. So now we're discussing the vaccine. And then also, yung mga side effects na naririnig, no? Minsan, narinig ng pinsan nung kamag-anak ni ganito, si kapitbahay, or narinig nila sa iba sa social media. So, ang social media kasi, useful siya, pwede rin siyang kalaban kung nagsispread tayo ng misinformation.
Thank you, Pediatric Infectious Disease Specialist Dr. Annalyn Reyes and Immunology Specialist Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. We all have a role to play in this pandemic, from getting vaccinated and following health protocols to making sure we receive and share the right and accurate information. All of these can save lives. And as we navigate the wave of information we have, it's best that we know who and what to trust. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated.